So much like we could use computed properties when working with the options API before, we can also use them with the composition API inside the setup function. Now, the way we do this is by first of all creating a variable or a constant. I'm going to say const and then name is equal to, and then we say computed, and I'm going to click on this and it should import it there from view for me. So again, we see that pattern of just importing the features that we need. Now next, we pass a function into this computed right here, and this function should return a value, and that value that we return is what this is going to be equal to. So for example, I could return and then just say Sean, if I can spell it, and then down here I can return name, and we could output that in the template paragraph and then output name like so. So this is just a computed property. We use the computed function, and inside that we fire a function which returns a value, and that value is assigned to this essentially when we output it. So let me save it and preview, and we can see Sean. Now the idea of a computed property is not just to return a simple value like this, but to compute a new value based on other values. We've used them in the past to return filtered versions of data, so let's try something similar now. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete this, and I'm going to create a ref, and this will be called names. So we'll set it equal to ref, which we've already imported at the top, and inside here I'm just going to output an array of names. So that is the value of this ref. Now we need to return it down here, and what I'd like to do now is output all of those names in the template. So I need to do a v4 to do this. I'll do it inside a div, and we'll say v-4 is equal to name in names. So we're returning names down here, and we're just cycling through those much like we would before and referring to each individual one as name. Now we need a key, so we'll bind to the key and set that equal to the name itself, because that is actually just a string which is unique. There's no strings that are the same here. Okay, so inside this div I just want to output the name. So I'll say double curly braces and name like so, which is this thing we called it right here. So if I save it and preview, we can see all of those names output to the screen. Now I want to allow the user to search for a name and then filter these results or this value based on that search term. So what I'm going to do is create an input field which is of type text and apply a vModel to this, and we'll call that search. So we need to make a search property, and I'll do that down here. Const search is equal to a ref, and to begin with it's an empty string. We need to return it here in order to use it in the template as we have done. So now as we type into this input field, it's going to update the value of this ref. So what I'm going to do now is create a computed property which is going to return an updated array based on the search term. So to do this, I'll come down here and say const matching names and set that equal to computed. Now actually, before I do this, let me just comment this out. What I'm going to do is output the search term down here so we can see it as we type. So search term, and then I'll just output search, which we can do, remember, because we return that value here. So as we type into this, it's going to update that, and then since we return it, it will update right here as well. Save it, and let's come over here, and if I start to type, we can see the search term down below. So what I'd like to do in this instance is obviously filter out the rest of these because Mario matches this. If I type just M, then it will look for anything with an M in the whole list, which again is just Mario. But if I did O, for example, then it would be Mario because of this, Yoshi, Toad, Bowser, Koopa. Alright, so that's what we're going to do. So let's get back to our computed property over here. Now inside computed, remember, we fire a function which returns that computed value. So let's say return, and I want to return the names dot value, remember, because we want the value of the ref. We can't just use the filter method directly on names because names is a ref object. We want the value, so names.value first of all, dot filter, and we want to cycle through the names and fire a function for each one, and we want to take in the name each time we do that. So first this, then this, then this, etc. And I want to return true if that name includes the current search term value. Because if that's the case and it returns true, we'll keep that in the list. So I'm going to say right here, name.includes, and then we'll take our search.value. So this includes method is something we can use on a string to see if the string includes a certain term or a certain string. So the search value could be O, for example. It's going to fire this callback function for each item. If it includes O, then this will be true, and it will keep that item in the array. If it doesn't include O, this will be false, and it will remove that from the array. It filters it out. So now we have a filtered array based on that search term. So now what we could do is, instead of cycling through names, we could cycle through matching names, which is that computed property, just a filtered array. So if I save this now and preview, if we refresh, then actually we can see that no names match at the minute because this doesn't have a value. So let's see what's happening in the console. We might have a warning or an error. Okay, something's going wrong. It says here matching names was accessed but not during render. Ah, I know, we have to return matching names down here. All right, don't forget to do that. I sometimes do, and you'll probably see me do it many times through the rest of this course. Now we can see all of them there to begin with. If I start to type in like T, for example, only Toad appears. O, and we get all of those. O, and we just get Cooper. All right, so we're using this computed property right here to return an updated value based on other values. And that's how we use computed properties inside the setup function.